Well, welcome everybody. What's today? It's the 16th of April. It's been about a month, 4 weeks, 6 weeks since our last session. And I wanted to start by tying back to the last session. But before we do that, seeing a lot of familiar faces in the room, certainly. But if you haven't been to this Burnout and Resilience series that Kelly and I are hosting, this is not intended to be a lecture. This is a conversation where we're going to share insights, perspective, experience, and hopefully all walk out of here with maybe a new tool in the toolbox, or if nothing else, just the communitas that we get from sharing with each other. The last time we got together, we ended the session by going around the room and asking each person what they were going to commit to putting down this year. Remember, I ended the session with the parable about dragging the boat. And for myself, my put down, I was going to focus only on high leverage activities in 26. I think Kelly said that she was going to work an hour less every day so she could make exercise a non-negotiable. That was your comment, right, Kelly?
It was, John.
Okay. So today we want to talk about what you can't put down. But before we do that, Kelly and I were curious, what made you dial in today? Expectation wise, is it because of the teaser that Betsy sent out? Is it because you just can't get enough of Kelly and John? Is it because you're carrying a load and you want an opportunity to share with people that you have trusting relationships with? What was it that made you dial in today? And who am I going to start with? I'm going to start with Laura. Hi, Laura. Why are you here? No, that's
Hi,
not fair.
John.
I should pick a non-six-wing person.
Mid-thought. I did like that you said I can't get enough of John and Kelly, because I was like, that's definitely true. I think what made me dial in today is that when I notice that I feel like I don't have enough time for something, it probably means that's the thing that I need to make time for. And so this topic, I was like, I don't know if it really I should probably make time for it. So that's why.
Awesome. Lindsay, what about you? Why are you here today? Expectations, what was attractive about the title of this conversation for you?
I think going to like the classic sixth wing, are you like red, yellow, green, the helicopter dial thing? I like have kind of lost what green is again. So it was like, let's just throw some stuff at it and see if maybe this is the answer to finding some green.
Okay. Let's get one more. Shelley.
Well, I wasn't here last time, but I can relate because ironically, just a couple of months ago, I committed to less scrolling and being more present for my family. But I guess what I'm here today, I'll just share a little bit. Last year, I took on a lot of extra things for a board that I sit on, and it resulted in, I wasn't taking care of myself and wasn't the best person or version for my family or my team. So I made some changes last fall and have prioritized my health and exercise. And I found a really great club that I belong to. And it's a group of 20 of us that work out on a regular basis. And I forgot how much I miss team. So why I'm interested in today is I lead a team. I'm very busy. I map out almost my entire day. I'm a mom of 2 kids and a wife. And so I feel like there's not a lot of extra to give. So that's why I'm here today, is to learn from all of you.
Awesome. Thank you, Shelley. So if last time was what we were going to put down, and this time is what we can't put down. It's no secret to any of the people in this room. Sometimes we have to do hard things. How we manage our competing priorities in those times and take care of ourselves and the people that are important to us in our life and how we prioritize that's kind of the basis or the foundation for the discussion today. But by no means are we going to be dogmatic about the title. If the conversation meanders or weaves and goes in different directions, we'll just go with the flow wherever it goes. We don't have to stick to, we have a plan, a conversational plan, but it never really ends up the way that we planned it out. Feel free to take it in a different direction if you feel some value in that direction. So Kellie, I know that you have some things in your world right now that you can't put down. Would you be willing to share with the audience how you're dealing with some of the load that you're carrying?
Yeah, well, I think what's ironic about what John and I agreed to putting down last time when we talked is mine was like I wanted to commit to physical activity. John wanted to commit to high leverage activities. And we both entered kind of an increased season of load for the next 6 weeks. And so John felt the strain intentionally in some ways because his travel schedule increased and my workload increased, and the number of different identities I will talk through that I move through in a given day, whether it's professional, mom, military spouse, those all quickly became so consuming that the thing that I wanted to, make sure that I was putting on my own oxygen mask first, it was the first thing to go, because you had to execute and deliver. And so I think the 4 things that I was sharing with John ahead of like, well, what do you fall back to in those times of, well, we've got to do everything that, you've signed your name up for. It's like trying to find control and agency, which are things that we crave as human beings, in the smallest piece possible. And then acceptance and alignment of like, well, how do I just accept that this season that I'm moving through and these different identities that I'm holding, this is just a part of the experience. And when things are in alignment, maybe it makes the season a little bit more palatable or not as hard. But yeah. What was my question that I was going to ask next, John? I'm curious.
You were going to give an example of, just from a persona perspective, whether we're talking personal or professional, internal, external, what's something that you can't put down?
Well, I mean, I heard Shelly say, being a mom is something I can't put down, and how I show up in that. The things that I have that I do for Sixth Wing, I can't necessarily put down. They need to be delivered on. The way I show up as a spouse and partner can't necessarily be put down. And so it's the load that I carry within each of those identities that kind of makes the system start to feel the pressure in different ways. And so some of that's external, some of it's my own expectations around it.
Sure, but none of it's optional, and that's where a lot of people get stuck.
I think I've made maybe you make decisions along the way that make it hard to be optional.
Sure, yeah, right. Everybody assumes that when we find ourselves in high load times that we can just remove some of them, and that's really not the case. There are some non-negotiables that you can't put down. I'm curious to hear from the audience, where in your life right now are you dealing with something that is realistically, it's just not changeable in the short term? Christina, what's a load that you're carrying that you just can't set down right now?
I relate to Kellie and Shelly as a mom, and this is, of course, it can be put down. I can ignore my kids, but it's a choice I'm not willing to make, right? I mean, there are women out there and men out there that choose to ignore their kids. So it's a choice that I'm willingly making. It's a priority that I'm choosing over, like, I'm still working. I'm reporting to a principal. So I'm supporting a principal. I'm leading others because I'm also a leader in the company. And that's something that I also prioritize, but I don't prioritize it as much as I prioritize my kids and my family and my spouse, right?
Sure.
Um,
Is a non-negotiable.
yeah, absolutely. And then health, you gotta take care of yourself if you want to take care of others. So important.
Definitely. Michaela, what are you carrying that you can't put down?
My work, my commitments, global project that I'm leading, and 24/7, cybersecurity awareness, because the cyber war is going on 24/7, and we have to be vigilant. So I have to stay on top of all the alerts and all the events that are happening. And at the same time, I have to be there for my team. I am a leader, and I can't crumble. My team cannot see me weak. If they see that I am pushing and I am carrying and I am pulling my weight, guess what? They'll fall in line, right? So in any situation, I think there are two things you can always control, and that is your response and your attitude, and that keeps me going. If my response and my attitude are right, other people will follow. So and things will be happening. So that's what I'm focusing on right now. Just being that leader and setting that example that I want to be.
Thanks, Michaela.
Michaela, do you sleep at night?
I don't sleep very much. I'm naturally aligned like that, but it's there. In cybersecurity, you're thinking about solving a problem most of the day, and then at 11 p.m. Oh wait. You get a bright idea. I know how to fix that bug, and then you jump on a computer and, you get lost in your work in the world, and, everything else just disappears, like cybersecurity is in my DNA, and, my friends, family, and everybody understands that if something is going on, I'm dropping everything and, I'm working on cyber. That's my primary focus now.
Yeah, how we prioritize the load certainly is considerate of the phase of life that we're in, right? At different priorities for each of us, depending on where we are. In the phone booth on 590 Madison Avenue, I think that's Schoenfeld's address, right? Is that Schoenfeld? I don't know your name, sir.
Mo.
Mo.
Yeah.
What are you carrying right now that you can't put down?
Being a husband and like others said, being like a people manager, leading a team, and there's a high volume of requests that we're getting right now and a lot of pressure, and trying to just keep things afloat and shelter my team from it as much as I can and distribute the workload and prioritize things as they come in.
Okay.
And
go ahead, Mo.
I was just gonna say, and I can't really put that down. It is like my job to do these things, so gotta adapt to the stress.
Understand. I know for me, when the load starts to pile up with stuff that I can't put down, one of the first things that happens is my sleep starts to deteriorate, and that voice, the rumination voice, starts to increase. Those are my own personal signals of strain, as we've taken to calling them. How about you, Kellie? You mentioned to me during or was it recently after our BAE event, you mentioned very specifically one of your signals of strain. How do you know when the load's getting too much?
Well, I think I stopped dropping the things that are important to my overall well-being to continue to get work done. And I resonate with the sleep and the rumination, the 1 a.m. wake ups, and it being very hard for it to fall back asleep because your brain kicks on. I'm also really curious, Lindsay saying that she's not in the green anymore. Like, Lindsay, what are some of the signals of strain that you're noticing in yourself, that maybe the gauge is shifting?
I'm super crabby. And Bridget will laugh as she hears this. I get really sensitive to noise when I'm dysregulated. So the kids' ice in their water bottles in the car when it's rattling around makes me want to throttle people, or listening to people chew in general. any sort of repetitive irritating noise. So that is one of my big tells is like I'm not so great with the noises when I'm dysregulated. That's why I thought maybe I was a little bit more regulated and I was like, and then I caught myself wanting to murder someone, drinking out of a straw. And so realized I was like, maybe I'm not in as great a shape as I thought I was on the regulation front. Trying to think what else are my tells. I am a very like over functioner and I actually will go into a mode of like under functioning or just not doing things. Which no one in like the regular world or who interacts with me would notice it, but like I know I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just like not doing that. And so it's like it's like a silent little revolt of, over like just over it.
John taught me a new term last week when we were together, revenge sleep procrastination. Has anyone heard of that before?
I'm like,
Because
what is that?
Oh gosh. Go ahead, Kelly.
Well, I was telling him a signal of strain also for me that I forgot is I will catch myself watching TV. I don't watch a whole lot of TV when I'm like functioning, normal in a regulated state. And then when the stress starts to increase, I am more likely to find that show that I just let kind of go to the next one and go to the next one. And then before you know it, I'm going to bed a lot later than I was planning to, intending to. And John's like, oh yeah, that's revenge sleep procrastination. You are trying to find some element of control in your world. And this is the one thing that's for you at the end of the day that you can have some control over, even though I really don't, because Netflix has got the algorithm to just like tee everything up,
And,
So,
and it delivers no value.
and it delivers no value.
Yeah.
But when he said that, I was like, oh wow, yeah, that is something that is for me a signal of strength. Bridget, what
Lindsay, I
about you?
like how you refer to them as tells. The poker player in you. Go ahead, Kelly. Bridget.
I was just gonna ask Bridget what her tells are.
I feel like these days I start to really like feel the strain building. So like everything feels kind of how Lindsay was saying, like, oh, it takes like the ice rattling in the metal water bottle to like notice. I think I start to notice like the general sense of strain across everything. And I find myself doing this yo-yo where I'm kind of like, oh my gosh, my day is so full on the calendar, it's going to be ridiculous. And then I have to like take a step back and I like look through and I'm like, oh, well, that meeting's going to be fine. That client's great. I'm ready for this. But my default goes to everything is a strain and everything is too much. And then I have to walk back from it. But like the next thing that comes up, I'm like, that's going to be too much to do. And then I have to pause and be like, that's a 7-minute task. But that's how I can tell when I'm stretched too thin is when I stop. Like my instantaneous reaction is it's all big and hard and is when I'm like, okay, let's do some recalibration. The one other thing I'll throw in that I think, because I heard it amongst a lot of people in the like, what can you not put down? I think when I'm in times of strain, like you suddenly go to this mode of, I can't really put any of it down. Like, same as most people, it's like, oh, I'm a mom, I can't put that down. But the reality is like there's a ton of variation in how I mom each day. And so, but I go to the like, but I can't put that down, I can't put that down. So it's like, I don't know why. It seems like a biological inverse that we like flip to everything should be more when everything is too much. And it's like that counter signal to what the solution is.
Yeah,
That's what Go ahead, Kelly.
Go ahead. No, you got
That's
it.
what high performers do. When they find themselves under stress, the idea is grind harder and that'll make everything better. When it does, it has the exact opposite effect. Kelly, you were going to say?
I was just going to say, like, the expectation management around when seasons are hard and how you're showing up is like, how do you ground those into like better meet what reality is telling you? And so if it is a season that the load is harder or things feel more non-negotiable, like Bridget saying, like, how I show up as a mom is different every day. Like, I've heard one parenting person, it's like, you just got to be a good parent 51% of the time. And so maybe some days I am 51% as a mom. And that like is really hard to wrestle with when you think of yourself as a high performer, but that's the capacity, like that is good enough for right now. And so let's move on and thinking about it more as dials and like, where am I needed most now and how am I dialing it up and dialing it back in certain areas to continue to sustain the load that I'm kind of moving through. Jeremy, I'm curious if you have anything to add to the conversation.
I do. I think when I'm overloaded, I've been doing a lot of somatic work lately. So trying to really sense what I'm feeling versus my instinct is to do it all. But I feel this, I feel it in my chest. And that anxiety is like this antsy kind of feeling that I get. And so that's where that's my tell, I think, is what I'm noticing. That my old tell was I'd become very short with people and curt. And so I'm trying to move away from that and actually sense it in my system first before actually acting out my tells.
I'm curious, are you at a point where you can sense it in your chest before you're short with people?
Yes. Yeah.
Jeremy, I like to.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
I like to say that chest feeling. I like to say that it feels like a ratchet strap that's wrapped around my upper torso, and you just hit a couple of clicks, and I can feel that pressure. And it's like, oh, dude, you need to breathe. You need to take a walk, stop, decompress. It just is a physical sensation. I can feel it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's a great way to describe it. That's exactly what I experienced, and that's where. So now I stop. I take some breaths, some 3 or 4 or 5 deep breaths. I try to sink in with that, or I get up and walk around. Like at the end of the day, like if we're overloaded, we still need. By continuing to do what you're doing isn't going to actually help. So I stop what I'm doing and I walk away and go outside. Nature is a big thing for me, so that seems to work. Walking seems to work, but even if I don't have that opportunity, I'm just doing the breath work and starting there.
Sure. Well, Jeremy, just follow up. When the pressure doesn't go away,
mm-hmm.
how do you define doing well? What does that even look like in that situation where you're feeling those signals? It's something you can't put down. We'll talk about solutions in a second, even though we've already landed on a couple, but how do you know? How do you evaluate? What's your yardstick?
I'm not sure I do it effectively. How do I evaluate that?
What does doing well look like?
Yeah.
How does managing that well? What gives you a sense of, okay, I'm aware, I'm dealing with this, I'm still getting it done? What is your metric?
I think if I'm doing it well, it's easy to check the box off of a bunch of tasks, but when I'm able to step back and then come back into it, I think it's actually creating some clarity in all of the things that I have going on. So it's maybe even taking a step back from the tasks and taking a bigger picture look at it. And then it gives me like a new kind of focus on what actually is important. So, I have on my computer screen, I do have a list of like the priorities of what are my priorities. And so I have to come back to that. And so I think it's, so doing it well is actually being able to see through the clutter by taking that step back.
Sure.
Yeah.
It sounds like the balcony perspective, like taking a step back, a little bigger picture, seeing the whole playing field sort of deal as a means to settle or give the nervous system a chance to deactivate.
That's right. I mean, I actually love the balcony analogy. So it's, I'm the player on the stage here, but at the same time, I'm at the balcony and am I able to see what's going on? And that is that kind of perspective that I think really does help. Yeah.
Right. Laura, how do you know when you're staying steady versus just grinding it out and pushing through?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I know when I get really overwhelmed. And that shows up as I kind of get more aggressive and I get busier because I think if I get more done, it's going to fix it. And I think my challenge now is noticing when I'm starting to click towards that before I tip over into it. And the invitation is, oh, well, if I get more done now, then I won't go there. But it actually gets me into it. And so what I've been practicing a little bit of, which is totally against my nature, is that when I feel like, when I start to notice that urge to, whether it's like, I'm going to clean the house at 11 p.m. or I'm going to do all this work, whatever it might be, is to just sit down or like close my computer. I just am like, I'm just going to ignore it. And I think at first I worried that if I ignored it, that then I would ignore it all the time and, the trash would go up to the ceiling. It's the worst case scenario. But I found that sometimes I just need to give myself a minute and then it doesn't quite feel as big when I wake up the next morning or when I open the computer at a time when my system has toned down a little bit. And I try another version of the balcony, but to try to use the rule of fives. Like, is this going to matter in 5 minutes? Is it going to matter in 5 hours? Is it going to matter in 5 days, 5 months, 5 years? And usually by the time I can almost always say that it's going to matter in 5 minutes. I'm like, this isn't working. Of course it's going to matter in 5 minutes. And then I'm like, okay, but in 5 days, am I going to care that our kitchen island was covered with stuff, or am I going to remember that I went out and threw the ball with my son when he asked me to? And then all of a sudden, it kind of is a perspective drill, just like the balcony. So that's what I'm working on.
Laura, it's so interesting. It sounds like hyperfunctioning is like a signal of strain for you, like when you get into go mode. And knowing that the work we do in Sixth Wing, we talk about how the stress is enhancing mindset. Like pressure makes me better, right? And so trying to delineate between the two of like, am I in go mode and this is pressure that makes me better? Or, oh no, I'm hyper functioning because my nervous system actually needs to rest and reset. Was just like, as you're like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
the
it's
other thing,
interesting because they look similar, but they're very different. Yeah.
And like trying to bring awareness to delineate between the two for yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna think about that. That's a great point.
The other thing is Jeremy was talking, John, just talking about some of the somatic work, and I was thinking about our regulation checklist, which is like the 3 R's for those who haven't heard it, of reset, which is using your breath, ready is moving your body, and then relating, physiological co-regulation. So finding someone who maybe is not as dysregulated as you to connect. I was having a moment of strain the other night, and it was interesting. So I'm like, I'm sleeping, I'm doing the breath work, and I still feel just not like I need something else, right, to kind of help. And interestingly, it was a moment of vulnerability, right? But I reached out to a friend and I was like, can I phone a friend right now? Question. And it was using that checklist to be like, what else can I go through that's like maybe would help me go to the balcony or take a moment. And it was like not the physical connection because it was just a phone call, but the connection with another human who I know brings me kind of just some grounding that kind of helped, I think. And okay, so sorry, that's one thought of like, which tool do you need when? And then two, I think in today's world, we expect things to happen immediately, right? Like I do this breath work and I feel better, or I go for a walk and I should feel better, when in reality, the nervous system is going to be operating on its own timeline, and respecting that I might not know the timeline of when I will feel well again, but I'm doing the tools that will hopefully help kind of make me get back to green sooner. I don't know if anyone can relate with anything I just said in my word vomit.
I know. I think about that signal of strain that Jeremy and I shared in common, that ratchet strap, right? That in the moment, the breath work, and certainly for me as well, moving my body, going for a walk, that in the moment relief mechanism. But talking about the earlier signal of strain that I mentioned, with my sleep kind of goes kaput and my rumination starts. For me, that forces me to look at, I immediately go to structure and habits as a means to stabilize. Like discipline equals freedom, that whole deal. I get strict with myself. I assess where I allow my habit stack to slip and acknowledge the fact that I built that habit stack for a particular environment. And as the environment changes, as the load piles up, we're not in the same environment anymore. And I know when I say I revert to structure and calendaring and discipline, that makes Bridget's skin crawl because she's literally the opposite. So Bridget, what about you? When you're under sustained stress, tools, problem solving, what tricks, how do you regain some control?
Yeah, John and I have laughed together about this before because he goes to like discipline is freedom, and I'm like, I am a low structure person, so the discipline feels suffocating to me. Like, and I don't want something that feels like more work in those times. Um, I am thinking two things. I think the biggest thing, and I think there's a ton of research that supports this, and John said it, is the move your body and you use your physical system to regulate your nervous system. And so, like, there's all kinds of tips of like cold water on your hands, cold water on your face, like it's why breathing, walking, get outside, like, and we forget that every time we try to think our way through what is becoming like a cognitive, little bit of like a cognitive lying in our own heads mess. But those small physical symptoms, I think, make a big difference. And it's like just remembering to be willing to do it. Kind of Laura said, like, be willing to actually just sit down for 2 minutes. Or be willing to actually just go walk outside, literally like one circle and come back. More recently, I was listening to a podcast. I don't know if anyone knows Martha Beck, but Martha Beck she's fascinating. She has like 3 degrees from Harvard and all this stuff, but she's essentially like an extremely well-known, she's like Oprah's coach. And Martha was the guest, and she's talking to a group, and the group is the group meaning 3 podcasters, and they are trying to work through this, like, how do we learn to sort of settle in more. And they are laying out a whole bunch of things, and I'm hearing this theme on the screen, which is why I've been thinking about it while we've been talking. They're laying out all these things they're going to do in order to get like more relaxed. And she pauses and she goes, I mean, I feel like what you're trying to do is use the system you're trying to get out of to get to a new state. Like you're saying, I'm tired of everything being more in action and everything else. And so you're going to more in action your way to like feeling more relaxed and restful. She's like, I think you need to use the new state to help you get to the new state, not use the old state. And that was like a big wake up call for me because I think this is what high performers do. It's like, we're all like, we need to put a whole bunch of things into action, not realizing in the energy or the belief system behind that, there's like the press for more. Mm-hmm. And so now in addition to using the physical state, which I wildly try to do, I just try to like, wait, okay, if what I want is to feel like a little bit more space and more ease, and I'm feeling like it's all a little too close, like, what if I like take a deep breath and try to settle into more space and more ease, and then go wash my hands in the sink to kind of reset and then come back instead of trying to force my way into it, if that makes sense.
Bridget, when you were talking, it made me think of what SEAL instructors say in BUDS. The beatings will continue until morale improves. Like, oh, this sucks? Let's do more of it. And that'll make it not suck. So yeah, I hear you. How about you, Mo? When you're under sustained stress, what actually happens? How do you claw back or feel like you're more in control again?
Like what happens in my body or my mind? How do I know the signs of it or something else?
What do you do? What solution or what tools do you break out to feel like you are controlling your environment again, or you are managing the load?
Yeah, a lot of what other people said, and trying to like work my way through it and try to be more efficient, and that ends up being like more short in my responses, and so not always the best strategy. Um, I do think like taking a few minutes and going for a walk, grabbing something from the kitchen or something does help to just slow it down. Taking a deep breath, because I do find I'm like holding my breath too much. And then to me, the big one that really helped is like a to-do list. There's an app that Microsoft has called To Do, and it's integrated with Outlook. And then I put all the things I need to do in there, so I don't have a mental load of like what do I need to do. And then each day I try to like star up to 3 things that I have to do that day, and that helps me prioritize. And then I feel less stressed of like if I at least accomplish those, then that's a good day, and I don't have to like do every single thing on that list. So it is
Okay.
for me. It's usually to try to create some kind of structure, basically prioritization.
Gotcha. Michaela, what do you do that feels like recovery, but doesn't actually restore you?
Oh, well, that's a good question. Recovery, but doesn't restore me. I think, doing something new, trying a new hobby, perhaps, like, I don't know. I like to read books, but let me try painting with watercolor, see how that makes me feel, focusing on something completely new, trying to like, start a new track, in your brain, you know what I mean, where I'm going with that, like, focus my energy on something completely new that I'm not trained for and I've never done before, and, try my hand at it.
Okay.
In general, I work in cyber, I have no feelings, right? But that's what people
Love it.
think. I like the idea of compartmentalization, like, whatever you're feeling or dealing with, but you have to prioritize and execute something else. You put it in a box, put it away, and revisit it, when you're ready for it, when you have time, right? You have to prioritize and execute, like we were saying earlier, like other people are saying earlier. And whatever else you have to deal with, you deal with it when time comes. Sometimes you have to go full bulldog mode and just bite down and, get through something, and you deal with, everything else later. Like, my team never knows when I have a problem, okay? Nobody knows that I have some kind of issue or I'm trying to figure something out. I will never let them know that, And, but, I'll go and, cry or whatever I need to do, later. And when it's, when I take care of business.
Sure. As long as we make sure that we dedicate some time to open that box and unpack it. Because if we don't, that's when compartmentalization can undermine us in the long term.
Exactly.
Hey, Betsy, when you're under sustained stress, what helps you feel like you're more in control again?
Well, I do the breathing. That has actually been a lifesaver for me, the deep inhale and then the hold and the exhale that you guys taught. There's been times actually, because I'm similar to everybody on this call, but there's actually been times in the last couple of months where, believe it or not, it's been 5 o'clock and I've said, I'm done. I'm just done. Because what I made one of my non-negotiables is I hired a personal trainer this year. And so I see her twice a week. And she said to me, I don't know how you do it all. Because for those of you who don't know, I also own a retail store here in Sedona. And I realized my answer was, I don't. And when I went home, I kind of thought about that for a little bit. And it's like, you know what? And that's okay. That's okay. Today, that's okay. And you know what? I'm going to shut the laptop at 5 o'clock. Now, it's only happened a handful of times, but it does make me feel empowered, like I have more control over this than it controls me, if that makes any sense.
Betsy, I'm so surprised to hear that response come out of your mouth.
Why?
I would not have. I'm so proud of you for that response.
Well, I do listen to you guys.
No, sorry, I'm not meaning to put you on the spot, but that is like such an awesome response to have and to hear you like, I don't, and that's okay, right? Because that's like part of realizing that, yeah, sorry, I'm kind of just processing out loud right now.
Yeah, I'm my own worst enemy, much like probably everyone on this call, perfectionist, ruminated well into 3 a.m., Like Michaela, no one knew I was having a crisis or a problem, and I'd go watch something sappy so I could cry and let it all out, right? You know what I mean? And I just was like, you know what, I need to not do that anymore. And so I mean, it's not like I'm done. It's a journey. It's not over with. But I was pretty proud of myself. It's happened a couple of times. I just said, it's 5 o'clock, I'm done. And that was it.
I think it's okay not to be okay.
Thank you.
It's okay
Yes.
not to be okay. And a solid boundary strategy, Betsy. It's 5 o'clock. I'm done. It'll be there tomorrow. It's not going away. Shelly, is there any small thing that you do in the middle of a tough day that brings you relief?
Um, I relate to a lot of people. Structure is what brings me balance. So I function the best when I plan out my week, and month. And so I think the tools that I've implemented, I talked a little bit about exercising. I tried to do it all on my own, and I think finding a people hold me accountable, but more importantly, our trainer creates the plan. And I feel like I plan out my entire life, including my household and work and leading. In this, I gave it up and I'm letting someone else plan. All I have to do is show up, and that has made the world of difference for me. A couple of other tools I use, I meal plan. I cook almost all of our food on Sundays. I use a really cool app called Meal Board. And it's been a lifesaver. It helps me create grocery lists and all of that. So that's been a great tool. And then still working out the kinks, but I'm involving my husband more in weeks where I know it's going to be insanely busy. We sit down on either Saturday or Sunday and kind of have a marriage meeting. And I let him know, like, Tuesday's going to be this, like, this is where I could really use your help. And I think before that, I didn't have resentment. That's not the right word, but I just assumed he would know that I'm really busy and can he help? And that communication between the two of us has helped us tremendously. And it just brings, again, structure to the week, and there's no surprises for either of us.
I love the structure, Shelly.
Yeah.
Those are all good tips.
And I think it's awesome to hear like the things that can be delegated out or like make the cognitive load easier for you, like showing up to a workout is a lot easier than going to like reducing the cognitive load and then finding ways to create accountability around those things is awesome.
Christina, you mentioned lots of different things that you can't put down. I'm sure you've had more than your share of challenging days. Do you have a go-to pressure regulator, a valve that allows you to vent and bleed down? What do you do?
I plan out. I lean into the discipline. I've recently learned that, okay, recognizing that this is what triggers me and trying to prevent it from happening, that's been really helpful. For example, I'll get wound up if I have too many things planned out for the day, more activities than normal, because I try to take my kids to, I don't know, see the Santa 5 times in the season and stuff like that. And then I'll say, okay, it's okay not to see the Santa 5 times. We can see him once and it's all good. Or the Easter Bunny or whatever it is. We don't have to go to 3 parks this week. It's okay to skip the park. And you know what? Even the kids are going to enjoy some downtime at home. So just being self-aware about things that get you overwhelmed. Like morning routines are really overwhelming for me. So I asked my husband, can you step in and do breakfast and I'll do other things so we can both be ready to work today. Those are some things that really help. And then, of course, outsourcing my family has been amazing.
Laura.
Does anyone? Oh.
No, you got it. I was going to pick on Laura again, but go ahead, Kelly.
Well, I was just curious, and maybe I'll pick on Laura, but like sometimes asking for help is hard. Or like admitting, like I heard Shelly like talking with her husband to ask for help. This is where I need help. Christina, you're like, asking for help is really hard for high performers, and I'm curious how people have overcome that barrier.
Oh,
Lindsay, I see you off mute. Oh, go ahead, Christina.
Yeah, my husband said, just ask me for help. And I said, I don't want to ask for help, but here's a list of things that need to be done every day and choose the ones that you like. And let's make them your things and not my things anymore. Because I don't want to ask you. I'm not going to ask you. I'm never going to ask.
Well, I also find it takes sometimes more, like I think about it and I'm like, oh my God, to sit and explain this to you so that you can actually execute it, because I have a high likelihood that you're never going to actually think to do this again. So like, this is really just like lost forever, or it might irritate me more having to explain, because you're going to ask me 17 questions about which milk we get. Like I can't get the 4 calls from the grocery store. So like, I'm just going to go, or like, we're just going to live without it. Like that's what I find I have a hard time delegating to those. It's the first time they're doing any of these things. So mostly that's like sort of my spouse, who we've lived in the same home for 20 years, but there are days I do sometimes wonder why he doesn't know where anything is. Or same grocery store. Like it really hasn't changed a lot in 15 years. So that is why I struggle with like the outsourcing piece. Like I love delegating professionally, like I am the queen of the delegation, but like personally, I'm like, why can people just like not get it?
So a lot of this is resonating with me, Lindsay, for a lot of different reasons for people. What's the difference between delegating at work and delegating at home?
I think the expectation at work is like, once I delegate it to you, you're going to do it forever. So maybe at home, I don't do a good job of like, hey, so now groceries are yours for the end of time. So like, you're going to learn this skill and you're going to do it. I think there's a very much like a one and done at home. Like, oh my God, look, I'm a star. I took out the garbage. Like I did the dishwasher today. Like newsflash, dishwasher every day. It's a thing. Garbage also every day. So like, shout out, good job. But like, rinse, repeat.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm not clearly setting my expectation that like, I am now giving this to you forever.
I think there's some alignment in how Lindsay said it and how Christina's, like, 2 different ways to come at the same problem, but certainly coming from the same place. Like, I'm not going to tell you, just do it. This is yours now forever.
I might know the answers to the difference between home and work situation. Emotional attachment, perhaps, because at work, people are expected to perform and be professional, right? So it's not so difficult to ask them to or to delegate. But at home, I have emotional attachments to family members, and that makes it perhaps more difficult to delegate or ask for help, because you are vulnerable with people at home. You are not so vulnerable with people at work.
Maybe there's an unspoken expectation that you should also be able to read my mind, like, because we're doing the same thing right now.
I have many talents, but I don't have a crystal ball or mind reading capabilities.
Yeah. Laura, I see you nodding.
Oh,
What's resonating?
It resonates so much. I think it's a combination of, yes, delegating and then like having to adjust your expectations to it not being your way if you want it to keep going. But for me, what I thought was really interesting is, I think it was Christina who said, like, my husband's like, well, tell me what you need me to do. And maybe I'm wrong. And you're like, I don't know what I need. I've had to come at it from like the reverse. In order for me to figure out what I need from people, I have to think about, what am I going to be irritated later about? And then I can like back engineer my way into it. Like, what is really going to irritate me if it is just assumed that I'm the one that's going to pick the kids up from their sports every day. And that, because looking ahead, today's version of me thinks I can do everything. I can say yes to it all. I can make your life easier. But if I look ahead and project, like, Laura of next week is going to be really irritated that it was all on my plate and we didn't talk about it. So that's just it's like a mind tool that I use for myself.
That's
You're doing
real.
a pre-mortem.
Yeah, that's I've heard you say, Laura, how are you complicit in when we were talking about doing coaching sessions, how are you complicit in the behaviors? You are like looking at your future self and projecting, what is it that's going to irritate me about this decision now, later? Because I need to change now so that that's not the case later.
Yes, because
right?
most
Did I
of the
say that right?
time, yeah, because most of the time that I get frustrated, if I can really get out of the emotion, I recognize that I'm frustrated with myself, that I didn't ask for something different. And I'm just like, I'm so mad at myself because I could have set this up differently. And so that's exactly it. I'm trying
You're
to look
red
at how
teaming
I'm
your
complicit.
personal plan.
Yes. Yeah. I
Okay,
also
in an
don't
interest,
listen to the voices in the middle of the night. I heard somebody say it. I'm like, those voices in the middle of the night, they've got nothing good to say. So don't listen to them. I tell that to my
that
kids.
is
I'm like,
true.
nope.
All right, in the interest of time, just looking at the clock here, we talked about stuff that you can't put down. How do you know? What are the signals or the signs that the strain is starting to get to you? We talked about some solutions for in the moment. We talked about some maybe longer term solutions. What when there is no solution? Kind of like the last piece in this conversation that we wanted to have. And it makes me think of I recently dropped a post in LinkedIn. Right? Sometimes there is no solution in the moment. And the mindset regarding the stress that you're undergoing in the moment and maybe a future reward is the way that you get through the now. Like I've told Sixth Wing, hey, I'm going AWOL in May. I'm not going to be here because for April, I've got a bunch of non-negotiables that I have to hit. Knowing that I have time off in May, for me, that the mindset and the anticipation of that future recovery it gives me a positive effect in the moment when nothing else works. So I guess last question, we can go around the horn. How do you personally decide when something needs to be solved? Or, hey, I'm just going to have to carry this right now. This is the load for this season and in this environment, and the relief comes when the relief comes. Who am I? Jeremy, over to you, sir.
Great question and a really hard one. I mean, it really takes, I don't think that's a strength of mine, that reflection to recognize that I even have to accept that I can't change it.
Okay, let's put a twist on the question.
Sure.
Where have you spent energy trying to solve something that really just required you to accept that this is just part of the strain right now? Is that helpful?
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to solve things on a daily basis that I think don't have any solution. It's either polarity or paradox, recognizing that I just need to accept it. So I don't know. I struggle with the question because I don't think I'm reflective enough on that specifically to push through it. I think in my daily life, I'm just accepting these things as what they are. I'm not sure I'm going to give you a good answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes we accept and don't take action.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're taking action and refusing the acceptance.
Yeah. I mean,
it feels like a balancing act.
It's a balancing act, and I think that if I see something that has to change, that maybe I'd say I don't accept that I can't change it. There are things like within my marriage that I do accept. Like I'm hearing all the challenges of role clarity at home. One of the things we did is I say like this isn't going to change. Like my role can't change. I can't do these things, but what else is possible? So now we have a whiteboard and there's just an assignment. So instead of having that challenge of, well, Jeremy's just not bringing the laundry downstairs, even though I ask him every freaking day to do it, it's not happening. But it's on the whiteboard of like, Jeremy, you're doing cans this week. Son one, you're doing laundry downstairs. So but I am kind of working through it of saying in that, or if it's really something that we can't change, I guess I just have to give myself grace to recognize that like this is where I'm at. And so I'm not going to stress about it. I'm not going to let the evil voice at 2 o'clock in the morning tell me that I need to be worried about it because it's not something I can solve right now. I think maybe that's getting to kind of what your question.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Miho, I see that you came up on camera. It's great to see you. Maybe you just finished your lunch. Maybe you want to share.
I don't know. I don't have much good thing to share, but I really like to shut down and take a bath in the bathroom tub. Hours. I'm in there hours with laptop. I put Law and Order nonstop and just like pass out. That's
That's your
something I
recovery.
do.
That's your recovery solution.
Yes,
Got
just let
it.
go.
Mo, what's one thing that resonated with you from the conversation today?
One of my big takeaways is to be kind to myself, and I think my main two, be kind to yourself. We're all struggling through this. You might drop the ball sometimes, and that's okay. Like you can't do everything at all times. And then try to take a step back and like look from the balcony and disassociate a little bit from the day to day. Like look at how am I spending my time and what am I spending on it? What are the thoughts going through my mind throughout the day? Let's try to get some clarity and distance from it.
Good stuff. We are at time, ladies and gentlemen. Again, thank you for taking the time out of your day. You know, something we didn't talk about today. We talked about the load and carrying the load and stuff that we can't offload. We didn't talk about the different types of load, whether it's cognitive or emotional or physical load or relational load. Maybe we'll hit that next time. Hopefully, we'll see all your smiling faces again. Thanks again. If you want to continue this conversation, reach out to Kellie or I. And we often have passionate conversations that are quite meandering regarding this topic. Reach out. Thank you all.
Thank you. This was great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.